Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Working today back again on the YJ. This is a 1988 and you can see I've got some work to do. The gas tank, well, I ran out of gas again last week and this thing's challenging because I can't put more than about 5 gallons into the existing tank because when I do, it all comes out the top somewhere. When I'm filling it, gas pours out on the ground. The gas gauge is always wrong. Sometimes it's empty at a quarter, sometimes it's empty at a half. So it's always a guessing game. So I'm going to pull the tank out of here. Got a new tank just in case something is wrong with the existing one. I picked up new filler hoses, a new fuel pump since I'm in there, fuel filter, and a new sending unit and pickup. I don't quite understand exactly the fuel pump situation on this. This looks like just an old school pickup here. No in-tank fuel pump provision. But this is fuel injected. It's throttle body, so I don't know exactly where the hell the fuel pump, wherever it is, I don't know exactly where this fuel pump goes. So that's a mystery to be solved while we're underneath there. So just doing a quick visual here, we've got this plate here, a protective shield around the tank. It's got bolts running down here. Looks like 4 or 5 of them. Not sure why one is longer than the others. It's strapped in, probably on both ends. Here is the vent for filling, and then the fill hose. And it's kind of dark and a little bit cramped under here. But you can see that one's pretty cracked, not in great condition. And they come route up to the filler, somewhere back up in there. This is undoubtedly the taillight. These are the lines that come out and go up toward the throttle body. So there's pressure, return, and probably vent. Don't fully know what the hell's going on there. Let's go take a look at the other side. Yep, strapped down. And you can see there are 2 vent lines that are teed together. No idea why. Service loop with a zip tie. I'm gonna call it a service loop. And then this goes over. This is probably that smallest line that we just saw over on the other side. Surprisingly, things are in really good condition for this thing's age. There's not a lot of rust down here, so I don't think I'm gonna have to do any work there. Oh, and over on this side, looks like we've got a nut there, and one there. So it's 3 studs on this side holding this shield on, and 5 over here. This one sucks because it's bent. I'm going to try to straighten that out before I try to take that nut off, because getting that nut over that bend is not going to be fun. That one is probably, not sure, but that one wouldn't surprise me if that requires the cutoff wheel to get that off. First thing though is we're going to take this license plate holder off and then disconnect all of this so that these fill hoses can pull out. I don't need to take them off the tank. I'll just pull them out with the tank. So this is real easy. We've got, it's like 6 bolts here. We can take those out and then this filler neck will just go through. We can leave this whole frame and the license plate holder and all of that just in place. I didn't really think that through. Should probably put a jack or something underneath of it to hold this tank up. Then I'm going to crawl further under and pull those other 3. I'd take you with me, but there really isn't room for the both of us. So I figured there was nothing of real interest under here. You know how to take a nut off of a damn bolt. But, so there's these 3. Kind of in the way of the differential and axle. A little bit hard to see because it's so close to me. But it's a little hard to get in. The angle is weird. So you will probably need a long ass extension to come down below the axle tube. But at least while I'm under here, I did find the fuel filter. And I don't know if it's original 88, but it's in a pretty rough shape. Just looking at that makes it want to leak. I think in order to get that filter out of there, because it's mounted, you can see it's got that there. I think we have to take this protective cover off. So it's got a bolt here, 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 and here. So I think we can take that off, and that'll give us access to this filter real easily. And I could actually clean this up and maybe spray it or something while we're at it. But so fuel filter on these is always forward on the frame rail. Again, I still don't know what the fuel pump situation is on this. Fuel lines look all good though. And unlike the ones to the rear, these are just a bolt sticking through. So you're going to need a wrench up here, 1/2 inch, to hold the top of this, the head of this bolt, keep it from spinning while you spin that off. And now we find out if it's as easy as I'm hoping. It's getting hung up on something over on the side. Probably those filler hoses we gotta adjust. I'm gonna take this out so that I can reach in. That filler neck's just getting in, catching on something in here. It's gonna be way easier if I can just reach in here and push it through. And so this filler is just kind of, it's hard to see, there's not much light there, but it's just kind of getting in the way, it's getting hung up. So from here, I can just push it down. So it's got to go in and down. You can see that these supply lines are actually starting to get tight as well. I need to remove those. I'd like to replace that with rubber. When you're in here, you might as well get all that done. But right now, this is my only transportation, so if I don't have any of that, the only way to get to the shop is with this vehicle. So I'm not convinced those are going to come out from up here. The space seems large, but it's hung up. It doesn't really matter. What I can do is I've got replacements for these. As you can see, they're in bad need of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut these off so I can drop the tank here, and then I'll take these up out through that hole. We do have the wiring here for the sending unit that we need to disconnect while we're in here too. Yeah, the good news is I have a spool of 5/16 line. That's what these two are, and those two vents are. Interesting, these are both the same size. One is the return and one is the feed, and I didn't pay attention to which was which, so I'm going to have to figure out under the vehicle which one those are. So pay attention to that when you take it apart. Bad news is that these lines, which were rotten as hell and needed to be replaced and that I cut, and these are the new ones that I have. There's a slight problem here. I think these are for the 20-gallon plastic tank, and this is a 15-gallon metal tank. I did order some just now for a Jeep CJ, which at least look right. I really don't know, but I'll have to assemble this thing either without hoses, or I have to wait until those come in and hope. So if you're doing this, be aware that the 15-gallon and 20-gallon filler hoses are not the same. Another interesting thing, as I said, I could only put about 5 gallons of gas in this thing before it started pouring out, and the range was pretty shitty, right? I could get about maybe 75 miles on that 5 gallons. By my estimation, I should only have about 1.5 gallons left in this, based on the number of miles I drove. But that is way heavier than 1.5 gallons. This is what the pickup probably looks like in there, so we're going to pull it out and take a look. But what I'm wondering is if someone was in here before and had these swapped, and so it was using this as the pickup instead of down here, which would only give you this part of the tank for your range. Yeah, so that's a totally different pickup than the one that I've got. This is what I was expecting. I've got an in-tank fuel pump here. I did buy a new pump, but I did not buy a whole new setup. Hopefully the gasket that I got can replace this one. Because if this was leaking when it was full, that could cause problems too. The gas gauge on this is nowhere near accurate. It's empty when the gauge reads somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 tank. So I want to make sure that this sending unit is correct. If this is working fine, then it's the wires upstream, and that's my suspicion, but we might as well check it while we've got it out. The easiest way to look at this is basically we're going to measure resistance from here to ground. But this probably has some oxidation on it. It'll be hard to get a good ground. So we can test the ground pin here or one of the ground connectors. You can see that it goes from the pump just to the chassis of this thing up here and then goes up through this wire. I'll see if I can get it here. And in fact, so the black here is the ground. See if we can get it in there and test it on this pin. I could check it here too. In fact, it's probably a little bit better. If I check it here, it checks to make sure that wire is good as well. So let's see if we can get a stable test here. It's hard with these small pins. If I wasn't lazy, I'd go make a connector for it. But so you can see I've got 48 ohms. This should be, I think, somewhere near 0 when empty to about 100 when full. So when it's empty, we're at 2 ohms. We just want to make sure that there aren't any dead spots in it. 130. Okay, so this is say a 0 to 130 ohm sender, but this sender is good. Next up is the pump. You'll notice it doesn't have a pickup screen on here. That's still in the tank. I don't know if it was even attached. Hard to say. Looking at this, I'm going to guess no. I'm guessing it was detached at some point in the past and it's just laying down in the bottom of the tank. So here's the new screen and the new pump. First thing you want to do is make sure that it looks physically the same. Dimension-wise, body is the same. Everything looks good. This one has just this small rubber thing here for anti-vibration. This one's got a much larger one, but it should still fit just fine in there. So we have to basically loosen this so that we can unhook the pump. And I'll replace this line. They did give me another chunk of line for that as well. So there's the pump out. We'll reuse this bracket. And that can come out. You can see that's getting pretty hard and cracked anyway. The pressure side on this was cracked as well. So that could have been spraying fuel. So we'll get that out of there. You can see that's cracked. So it could have been affecting pressure up to the throttle body as well. All right, we've got our hose on, we've got our bracket on. It's going to go in like that. It does not hurt to make this a little bit long so that you can get it all in and then cut it again when you have it in here. This actually looks like it's just about perfect though. Okay, we've got this all back together. We have to figure out which one's the pressure and which one's the return on the vehicle. Interestingly, it was 5/16 line for both of them, on the vehicle, but this is a 5/16 and that's a 3/8. Usually that's how I tell. That's why I didn't pay any attention when I pulled it apart. This we'll put on here right before we drop it down into the tank. This pickup has a couple of tabs on it that align. You can see right there and right there. But the easy way to tell is this sock goes kind of that direction on the tank. Things are always fun on vehicles of this age. I had to do this. So basically I ordered a set of CJ tubes and they were still too short, but this is the CJ tube and this is the original, or maybe this is the, well, whatever. Basically right after 1988 they went to a 20-gallon tank, which is a wider tank, so everything moved, and so the hoses are much shorter. The CJ, also still fairly short. I used this part, actually, yeah, this is the CJ part. This vent one, the return, or whatever you want to call it, this hose is the CJ one. I think it's going to be long enough. If I pull it, you know, to kind of straighten it, it comes to about the right length. So I'm hoping I can give it a little tug in there. Now, the interesting thing here was I didn't have a coupler for this, and I really need something to get this thing back on the road. So I just used a Sawzall and cut that nipple off. Yeah, this thing's still full of gas. Just go slow, you know, don't get it too hot. And then that nipple, when I took it out, is about the length of these two hose clamps. So it doesn't twist, doesn't pull. It's good enough. Point is, you make do with what you've got. I also painted the tank, both the underside and the top. I painted the inside of this cradle as well. I didn't do the bottom. I can clean it and do it when it's on the vehicle. Get it somewhere where I've got access to a lift and get it up and do all of that. This is a different color simply because I ran out of black. I wanted to spray that just to help prevent corrosion, especially of that ground wire and things. The outlets are here. That's a 3/8 and this is a 5/16. So this is the supply, this is the return. On the vehicle, they're both 5/16. The way to know which one is the supply is you get up under there, you look at which one the filter is on, and that's going to be the supply. So the line that runs through the filter is going to go to the larger one here. The one that doesn't go through the filter, which is the return, will go to this smaller one. I'm going to drop this down through that hole, then crawl underneath and get that tank under. When you're putting things back together, I actually find it's a little easier to put these ones on at the back because I can move the jack and push it around and adjust it a lot easier by myself, but don't tighten them down. Keep them loose so that it can move back and forth. You can see these holes are oblong to allow you to do that. So you want it to be movable this way, and actually you want it a little bit loose up and down as well. All right, you'll see here at the front, I've removed the bolts at both ends, so I only have one. I don't want multiples because they'll be getting in the way. And there's a pretty good sized gap here. So what I need to do is I need to squeeze it together and get this thing through that hole and then put a nut on. Unfortunately, it's real hard to squeeze that, align this, and do everything that needs to happen. So I'm going to squeeze it together and then use these vice grips to hold it in place. Then I can drop that down through the hole. In fact, I'll start out wide and I'll use this to pull together while I align those holes. Once we have those tightened, we can come back here and tighten these. The only thing left to do is put this housing in and put the plate back on. If you want to learn from my mistakes and not have to pull it out after you've put it in, test the pump before you put it in. So there's an orange wire and a black wire. What we'll do is we'll just test with the meter, check the resistance between those. It should not be infinite resistance, it should be something. I don't exactly know what the spec would be, but it probably shouldn't be more than maybe 150 ohms, somewhere in there. And I get infinite resistance. So this pump, Either the pump itself is bad or the wires from here in are bad. Bruh. Some moron forgot to attach the wires to the pump before it went in. I bet when I go back and edit all this, I'm going to see it plain as day. So it wasn't a bad pump, it was just a moron with a wrench. I'll go ahead and put this back in. There's no need for me to video it or for you to watch that. That's all I've got for you today. Thanks for watching.